You might have seen news about the acid attack that took place in Stratford in East London yesterday night. That's Saturday the 23rd of September 2017. In this video, I'm going to give you a little bit more context about that attack, and I'm going to show how it connects with wider problems in that area, and in particular issues to do with criminality amongst youths, black youths in particular, in London. So this is the scenario that took place. There was an attack in Stratford in the Westfield near the Westfield Centre in Stratford. Now, the Westfield Shopping Centre is quite a new shopping centre. It's about, well, is it probably less than 10 years old, or around about 10 years old, and it's a big new shopping centre in Stratford. This shopping centre, along with the Olympic Stadium and the Olympic Park, all of this, loads of money of regeneration has poured into Stratford and has absolutely transformed part of Stratford. But it hasn't really, because Stratford is still Stratford. Stratford still has all of the hoods in the area. Stratford has still got all of the same people who live there anyway. Still got all of the same social problems. Stratford and the surrounding areas like Bow and as we're going to read later, as I'm going to talk about later on in this video, in other parts of Newham like Beckton and Forest Gate and Plaistow and so on. And this is it's almost like a little. It's a juxtapositioning of the outward appearance of London that people like man's like Sadiq Khan want to put out. That, oh, look, we're open. Look how shiny and lovely it is. Oh my God, London is so open for business. We're so open for your custom. Come, it's wonderful. Very multicultural. We're all getting on. We all love each other. However, the underside is nah. Degeneracy, violence, criminality, gangs, and so on and so forth. And I'm going to talk about all those things in this video. So let's read the story in the video itself. A 15-year-old boy has been arrested after 6 people were injured on Saturday night in what police suspect was a mass acid attack in Stratford, East London. It came after a noxious substance. Try saying that after a few pints. It came after a noxious substance was thrown in several areas, including by the Westfield Shopping Centre and the Olympic Park, during a standoff between 2 groups of males. Gosh, now I know this area real well, and just imagining what this must have been like. It must have been absolutely terrifying for everybody who was involved, apart from the idiot hood rats who were doing it themselves. Witnesses described how innocent victims caught in the crossfire screamed in pain after being hit with fluid, with one shouting, "I can't see, I can't see." They said the attacks came after a brawl erupted inside the Stratford Centre between the youths, and the trouble then spilled outside. Now, just to give you context, the Stratford Centre isn't part of Westfield. The Stratford Centre is the old part of the old shopping centre in Stratford, which is across the road now from the new Westfield and the tube station, the train station. Police and emergency services rushed to the scene amid the panic in the aftermath of the fight that broke out shortly before 8 p.m. Hundreds of shoppers were in the area amid the standoff, which moved back and forth between the Stratford Centre and the larger Westfield Centre opposite. Now, the road that's between those 2 shopping centres has got a bus station there, a kind of open bus station. It's like a 3-lane road, I think 3 off with a bus lane there as well. There's a bus station there, loads of buses there. And then a concourse in front of Stratford Centre. So you've got people who are coming in and out of the train station, on and off buses, in and out of the shopping centre, the old shopping centre, and pouring in and out of the new shopping centre. It's a very, very, very busy place. Really busy place. And this must have been bloody terrifying. People going, these gangs, these 2 groups basically, fighting each other across the road, over back and forth, back and forth. Back to the article. Commuters were also streaming in and out of Stratford Station when the dangerous liquid was thrown into the crowds. 6 males were injured in the attack, with 3 hospitalised, emergency services said. Police said the group of males fled after the attack. And they arrested a boy on suspicion of grievous bodily harm. Now, I won't read the rest of this article. Google it and have a look for yourselves. But this attack, I mean, there's a couple of interesting angles for me for this attack. One is the acid attack angle, and 2 follows on from the acid attack angle. There's been a rise of acid attacks in London over the past kind of year, 2 years, even 3 years or so. It's really becoming more and more and more of a thing. 5 years ago, you didn't really hear about acid attacks. It was only in the random one-off cases every now and again, but you're hearing about it more and more and more. Part of that, I'd say, is the fact that there is a little bit of a kind of media panic over acid attacks. I almost said something rude there. There is a bit of a media panic over acid attacks, which I think helps to kind of promote it to the idiots, to the kind of people who would like to use acid, and so that's part of the problem. I think that we make a huge deal of it, and I'm probably adding to it in this video, but for me that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is about, well, who are these people who are using acid in these attacks? And this is where it gets interesting for me, and more, if you like, socially and culturally important. This was an article on the 7th of August in The Guardian. It talks about an emerging link between acid attacks and gang violence in London. And basically the police, the Metropolitan Police, that's the police in London, are basically saying that they've got a network of people who are involved in gangs, or they suspect of being involved in gangs, and it's got 3,000 people on it. And they're finding more and more and more the people who are involved in acid attacks, either victims or perpetrators, are also spotted on this gang network. And the article talks about how there's been a rise in the numbers of acid attacks and so on and so forth. Then it talks about how the police want to make tweak the law and do this, that and the other to make it easier for them to kind of tackle people who are carrying acid for the purposes of attacking people. And that's important and so on, but for me it's kind of, acid attacks are just a symptom of a deeper problem, which is the gang violence. And the gang violence itself is a symptom of a deeper problem, which is social dysfunction, social degeneracy, particularly, unfortunately, in my community, the black community. Now, the Stratford attack, the acid attack, I think it's very likely that the acid attack that took place yesterday night, that mass brawl that took place, is going to be connected to a series of incidents which have taken place in Stratford, in that kind of Newham part of London, just over the past 3 weeks. Let me explain what I mean. Just on the 1st of September, there was another mass brawl in Stratford, Westfield, and this led to someone actually being stabbed. So this is a Metro article, and it talks about this attack, and it says, police were called to the scene in East London at around 6:15 following reports of a disturbance on the ground floor of the Westfield shopping centre. One man suffered a stab injury and was taken away in an ambulance. His condition is not yet known. A second man was found with head injuries. However, his condition is not thought to be serious. Another man was later arrested nearby on suspicion of GBH and possession of an offensive weapon. A Metropolitan Police spokesman told Metro UK police were called at approximately 6. Anyway, I won't repeat all that. But posting on Twitter after the incident, one shopper said, "Imagine getting locked in a store in Westfield only to come out to find blood all over the floor and police everywhere. Brilliant." Another said, "Thought I would come to Westfield Stratford for a change. Within minutes I've seen a mass brawl in the shopping centre." And again, this is one of the interesting things about this. The kind of collision of the shiny kind of merchandise, the shiny shopping kind of mass production London that people want, and it's good, of course. You want trade, you want retail, you want retail outlets, you want people to be able to go and enjoy yourselves and do this, that and the other, and London's got a whole load of places where you can do that, but it's kind of, it rubs uneasily against the underbelly of all of that, which is the stabbings and the acid attacks and the killings and the so forth. Just like recently there were some incidents in Dalston, Dalston, East London, Hackney in East London, the borough of Hackney in East London. The same thing. It's very trendy. It's where the Hoxton and all those areas where all the beardy hipsters go, and it's all very right on and la-di-da. But it's also right next to some huge council estates with loads and loads of crime and violence and murders and so forth. This is London. Deal with it. And so there was a stabbing in London, in Stratford Westfield on the 1st of September. Then 5 days later, on the 6th of September, This happened. Corey in Forest Gate. Corey Junior Davis, 14 years old, killed. To the article, Corey and a 17-year-old boy who suffered life-changing injuries were found in Moor Walk in Forest Gate. Forest Gate is an area right next to Stratford, still in the borough of Newham, after the shooting on Monday. Corey's grandfather, Neville MacLeod, said he could not believe that anyone could want to kill the teenager. A murder investigation has been launched, although no arrests have been made. The Met said that there were serious concerns of retaliation and has put extra officers on the streets. Mr. MacLeod said he lived with Corey, who was known as CJ. Quote, "He never gave me any trouble. I've nothing bad to say about CJ, not one word. He might have got into trouble once, but nothing major that someone could want to kill him." Now, unfortunately, the situation is not as straightforward as that. What I've seen happen, is parents and grandparents and relatives, even siblings, might not know what people are into, what these boys are into. And some of these boys, they're real slimy tucksters, they're real good talkers. They'll talk a good game. They'll be lovely, lovely in front of their parents, lovely in front of their grandparents, give it say what they need to say and so forth in order for, everyone to think, oh, he's a nice boy. They go outside though, and unfortunately the people that they're running with outside are wrong uns, and even them themselves are wrong uns. They themselves could be bad boys and instigating some of this stuff, but it's just that they know how to, to play the game when they're at home, so they don't get trouble and strife from their parents or from their grandparents. And this may be the case in this incident. In this case, I don't want to, talk about this boy. I don't want to speculate myself, but I'm just going to kind of read what is being said in the news articles with regard to Corey Davis and Corey Junior Davis, and it seems like he was involved in some gangs. And this article on The Sun on the 7th of September gives us some more info. It says, "Shoot to kill. Gangs linked to the execution of Corey Junior Davis, 14, made chilling YouTube gun brags viewed by thousands, and videos remain on the site." And here's the article here. There's the pictures there. I won't scroll down because it's got a picture of bloody Lady Gaga on the side there, which I don't really want to be seeing. But it says, "Feuding gangs linked to the execution of a 14-year-old boy have made chilling brags about gun violence in YouTube videos watched by thousands online. Corey Junior Davis was shot from behind, i.e. executed, as he sat with his friends near a playground in Forest Gate, East London at around 3 p.m. on Monday." That's a picture of him there. He's now dead, unfortunately. He died in hospital the next day. A second shooting victim, aged 17, remains in hospital in stable condition with potentially life-changing injuries. Now here's the information. Corey has been linked to the Woodgrange E7 gang. Now E7 is the postcode of Forest Gate, and Woodgrange is a part of Forest Gate. Woodgrange Road and Woodgrange Park Station, I think. I know the area well. And it is believed the attack was the latest outbreak in violence in a dispute with the Beckton E6 gang. Beckton is another part of the London Borough of Newham. E6 is the postcode for that, for Beckton. Back to the article. Locals say the shooting was a revenge attack for the hunting knife stabbing of an 18-year-old man during a mass brawl at the nearby Westfield shopping centre in Stratford on Friday. Both groups appear to have posted videos on YouTube rapping about gangland violence and shooting to kill. But the video remains live on the site, which says that such language is often artistic expression and it would need content linked to gang violence to be reported by the police before it is removed. And so this is where it gets interesting. Unfortunately, this boy seems to have been linked to one of these gangs, the Woodgrange E7 gang, and so it would appear that the guy who was stabbed in Westfield on the 1st of September would have been part of the Beckton E6 gang. So it's tit-for-tat violence between these gangs, and they are, unfortunately, this is now where this is where we are. These kids are going on YouTube and they're making their music videos and they're bragging about shooting each other and killing each other and stabbing each other, bragging about how hard they are. They're bragging, they're attacking and dissing their ops, which is what they call their opponents. And it's a sad, very, very sad and devastating state of affairs now. Such is the situation now that you've got hundreds of these videos on YouTube. I spent a fair amount of time over the last last few weeks or so watching these videos, and yeah, these groups are on there and they're bragging about what they've been doing. All of the groups are beefing with each other. So either the gangs themselves are also doing the rapping, or else what's usually the case, some of the people in the group are doing the rapping thing. The drill music, they call it drill music. Drill music originated in Chicago, the violence capital of the US, bare gang violence, and unfortunately, as is often the case, we've adopted the worst that Black America has got to offer here in the UK. We keep doing it, unfortunately. Just like we adopt some of the worst that Jamaica has got to offer, we adopted the worst that Black America has got to offer. And in this case, it's the drill ethos of the US, in particular of Chicago. And so you see these kids on, there they are on their council estates there, bragging about this, that and the other, gunshot signs and this, that and the other to the screens. This is where we're at. And what's sad is that I look at these videos and, you read the comments and, like I say, these videos, the actual videos from the artists themselves are getting millions of views, some of them, millions. You've never heard of any of it. Most people have never heard of any of these artists, and yet they are massive on road. And you read the comments and like people are basically, it's like a soap opera for these kids. It's almost like a soap opera. They're like, yeah, because this crew beefing that crew, and like, yeah, you're gonna get caught because this crew's the best crew. Rare. It's a sad state of affairs. The stupid thing is, well, these people are on there and they're basically snitching on themselves. The reason why half of them cover their faces is because the things they're talking about are straight up incrimination, and so they can't be seen. They can't identify themselves on these videos because they'll get arrested and put in jail. And it's a horrendous state of affairs. This is what's happened to black music. This is what's popular now amongst black kids and just kids generally in the UK, in London in particular. And it's reflective, actually, this drill music and the gang violence that it's kind of intimately connected to is a problem, but it's only a symptom of a problem. And in my opinion, I've said this so many times, the problem is to do with the social melee in the black community, in particular the breakdown of the black family. Now, whenever you read these articles, or you read about these boys who get shot and killed and stabbed and killed and so forth, you won't hear from a dad. You'll hear from a mother, you'll hear from a grandparent, but you won't hear from a dad. Why is that? Well, in case you don't know, black children in the UK are largely being raised by single parents. So this is from 2008, and I always quote this article, these figures. It's between 2004 and 2008, these statistics. I always quote these statistics, but this is nearly 10 years ago now. This is 10 years ago. So what's happened is, I would imagine that these statistics have got even worse. Basically, this is showing you the children's distribution across family types by the child's own ethnic groups. So it says, basically it's saying that, well, how many of those children are raised by couples, and how many of the children are raised by single parents. And what you'll see here, there's some other interesting information here, but the main thing is, for the children who are, most groups are like, 20, 19, single parent families, that is 10, the Asian ones right down 10, 15 and then lower. Then you get to the Black African and Black Caribbean. Black African, 44% of Black African children raised by a single parent. Black Caribbean, 65% being raised by a single parent. Black other, 47% being raised by a single parent. And mixed white and Caribbean, 51%. And even mixed white and African, 37%. So basically, the majority of black children under 16-year-olds being raised by single parents, the overwhelming majority in the case of Black Caribbean children, and I would imagine that's got worse in that time. And what's the significance of that? What comes as a result of that? Well, it's obvious. If you have children with no dad around, particularly boys, if you have boys with no dad around, they're going to find direction somewhere. Where they're going to go, they're going to go pardon, they're going to go out on road. And another statistic that I've seen recently, which helps to kind of, explain this, is that when you look at these boys in their videos, they're always in, outside council estates, because that's their patch. What the areas that they represent, the numbers that they talk about are usually something to do with either the area code for that area, or the phone number code, or something. They represent the hoods that they're in, as we saw Beckton, as we saw Forest Gay, and in these videos here we see Kennington, Brixton, Peckham, Oval, so on and so on and so forth. And when you look at household, the kind of where do black people live in the UK? How many black people are own their own homes? How many black people are renting in social housing? And this is a briefing paper from the House of Commons from 9th of June 2017, and it's got a very revealing chart for us here. For basically, it looks at the household reference person, which is the person who's the main either breadwinner or the main income earner of the house, and it says where the person is of a particular ethnicity, what are they most likely to be. So owner occupier, how many of white households, let's just put it that way, are owner occupiers, i.e. they own their own home? It's 66%, and then it's fairly high for all of them except for black. How many of the black households are owner occupiers, i.e. own their own homes? Only 30%, a small minority of them. The remainder are for the private renters, their black number is roughly the same as all the rest of them pretty much. But social renting, that is living in council houses or council flats, all of the nearly half, 48% of black households are in social housing, social renting. That means that they're in council estates mainly. And what does that mean? That means that when you're on a council estate, obviously beggars can't be choosers. You're going to get put into a place like a Grenfell Tower. You're going to be put into an estate like that estate that Grenfell's part of. You're going to be put into an estate like, I don't know, the Peckham, what's that Peckham, North Peckham estate, and Broadwater Farm estate in Tottenham, and all these kinds of places. You're going to be put into these estates, and these estates are going to have high concentrations of what? They're going to have high concentrations of fatherless boys. And when you have high concentrations of fatherless boys in low socio-economic areas, housing estates, council estates, and so forth, those two are basically the reasons why we're seeing this kind of bullshit. Those two are the reasons why we're seeing this kind of nonsense. Those two are the reasons why we're seeing 14-year-old boys like Corey Junior Daniels getting involved in gangs at 14 years old and getting killed at 14 years old. That's the problem here. So, it's a stark state of affairs. On the surface, London, wonderful place. Yeah, London is open for business, Sadiq. Yeah, you keep telling everyone London's definitely open for business if you've got the money and if you can stay away from all this stuff. But for black people in London, unfortunately, it's a dark and messy place. And these black spokesmen like your Black Lives Matter and Diane Abbott, even David Lammy, what's the guy's name? All of these people, Lee Jasper, and so on and so forth. These people, they will blaze a fire against white people. They'll blaze a fire against the government, against the Tories, against the police, especially their favorite targets, against climate change, because climate change is racist. They'll blaze a fire against all these people. They'll make loads and loads of noise about the racism, alleged or otherwise racism. Fine. They will never say one word of condemnation about these idiots. Not one word of condemnation about the boys who are going out on streets. They're basically terrorists, these boys. That's what they are. We should call these people terrorists, because they're going out there and they're causing mayhem on the streets. They're killing. Thank God they're only stabbing and killing each other. But obviously people are going to get caught in the crossfire, like we saw with this acid attack in Stratford. But it's probably because of that it's being contained, that you can kind of turn a blind eye to it. You can be walking down in some of these areas, like this one on screen here. Presumably there's somewhere in South London. You can be walking in these areas and if you're like a big man, you won't know any of this stuff. No one knows. None of these people know you. You won't know them because you're not in that world. You're not in that life. But unfortunately, if you're a youngster, particularly a black boy in these kinds of areas, you're going to get sucked in, because it starts in these areas. It starts in the schools. That's where the networks are made. That's where the links are made. And of course in prison, when these people get chucked in prison, that's where even more links get made. That's where they train each other up to become even more feral, criminals. And we need to, as black people, Chris Rock once talked about a civil, black people and niggers. And we need to go back to that. We need to go back. We need a civil war, basically, in the black community, or a culture war, a black culture war, whereby more and more people will stand up and say, no, this idiocy, this degeneracy is wrong, is bad, has got to stop. Women who just spread their legs to any old idiots, bun them, fire bun them, condemn them. They must be condemned, because they're basically raising up more and more foot soldiers for these ridiculous armies, who don't own shit, and all they do is just run around like friggin' idiots. We need to condemn this nonsense. We need to condemn the men who just go out there and spread their seeds with no thought about what's going to happen to their children. We need to condemn it. We need to call it wrong. We need to call the artists, the rappers, the dancehall artists and so on, the DJs who are playing this bullshit music. We need to condemn them. Tell them, no, this is unacceptable. You're bringing the image of black people down, and we won't have it anymore. We need to fire bun all this nonsense. And also, we need to bun those so-called spokespeople who just want to concentrate on their God. They want to concentrate on their God who they worship, and that God is white man. We need to condemn that lot. All they want to do is talk about white people, because for them, only white people are able to choose to do the right thing, and we need to come against that. We need some kind of black civil war. I don't know. I'm not talking about actual physical fighting war. There's enough fighting and violence in these black communities, but we need to start drawing some lines of demarcation to say, no, this shit, no, I'm not having it. This is not us. We don't want this. We need to condemn it, and we need to start promoting the positive as well, of course. So that's all I really wanted to say about this whole thing. In future, the videos that I make, I want to try and make sure that I talk more and more and more about this kind of stuff, because I'm tired of seeing the lefty trans, what do you call them? The lefty intersectional feministy transgendery, critical race theory buffoons. I'm tired of them dominating the kind of output, the black social commentary, and that we have in the UK. The media companies, the news companies, who do they talk to whenever they want to get an angle on any race issue, a black issue? Who do they bring out? They bring out the Lee Jaspers of this world. They bring out the Black Lives Matters of this world. They bring out, these people who are just going to spout the same left-wing, never criticise black people, always criticise white people line. They're going to bring out the Herbert Marcuse cultural Marxism line. And so the media's to blame as well for promoting this kind of nonsense. Just like they promote these kinds of groups and this kind of music, So anyway, yeah. Take care, thanks for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.